Let's talk about something that separates the dreamers from the doers, the talkers from the finishers, the ones who say someday, and the ones who say no. That something is execution, the relentless drive to get it done no matter what, no matter how, no matter when. 2026 is not just another year on the calendar. It's not another 12 months to figure things out. It's your defining year, the year you draw the line between your past limitations and your future greatness, the year you stop talking about potential and start proving it. Too many people are living in a cycle of excuses. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have support. I don't have energy. You know what? You'll never have any of that until you decide to move without it. You don't wait for conditions to be perfect. You make them perfect by your decisions, your hunger, your action. Let me remind you, no one is coming to save you. No one's coming to knock on your door and say, hey, I'm here to fulfill your destiny. That's your job. That's your mission. That's your responsibility. Every excuse you make is a brick in the wall that keeps your dreams on the other side. And every time you take action, real, consistent, committed action, you start knocking that wall down piece by piece. You've got to raise your standards. You've got to look at the person in the mirror and say, I'm done negotiating with my own weakness. Success doesn't come from motivation that fades in a few days. It comes from discipline that's built day after day when no one's watching. When you show up tired, when you show up broke, when you show up scared, that's when you build power. That's when you forge strength. 2026 is the year to stop being interested and start being committed. There's a big difference. Interested people do it when it's convenient. Committed people do it no matter what. Interested people say, I'll try. Committed people say, it's done. Interested people look for ways out. Committed people look for ways through. You've been through too much, fought too many battles, and survived too many storms to let another year pass you by without doing something massive about it. The world doesn't need another person talking about goals. The world needs people who live them, people who are willing to sacrifice comfort for greatness. You say you want to change your life, then make your actions louder than your words. You say you want to grow your business, change your body, rebuild your family, heal your heart, create impact, then stop saying someday and make it day one. Every moment you waste making excuses is a moment someone else is using to build the life you want. Every hesitation costs you momentum. Every fear you feed costs you confidence. So instead of feeding your fear, feed your faith. Instead of focusing on the problem, focus on your power. You already have everything you need inside you. You have a mind that can focus, a body that can move, a spirit that can believe. You've got experience. You've got lessons. You've got resilience. The kind that can't be bought or borrowed. The question is not whether you can. The question is whether you will. Get angry at your own excuses. Get disgusted with your own delay. Use that fire to push yourself into action. You've got to demand more from yourself than anyone else ever could. Because if you don't, life will keep you exactly where you are, safe, small, and stuck. In 2026, you make the decision, no more excuses, no more waiting, no more I'll start tomorrow. You either make it happen or you make excuses. But you can't do both. Wake up earlier, stay up later, focus harder, learn faster. Execute relentlessly, because when the year ends, it's not going to matter what you plan. It's going to matter what you did. So make this the year you rise. Make this the year you build. Make this the year you execute like your life depends on it, because it does. This is your time, your move, your moment. No excuses. Get it done. Your future depends on what you execute, not what you intend, because intention without execution is the illusion of progress. You can have the greatest ideas in the world, the most inspiring visions, and the most detailed plans written down on paper, but none of it matters until you take action. Too many people confuse motion with progress. They think talking about their dreams, visualizing their goals, or making lists is the same as moving forward. But action is the only thing that separates dreamers from achievers. The world doesn't reward your intentions, it rewards your results. Every day that passes, you're either moving closer to your vision or further away from it, and that direction is determined entirely by your actions, not your desires. Think about how many times you've told yourself, I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week, next month, and eventually next year. You had the best intentions to begin, to create, to build, to change, but without execution, all those intentions become broken promises to yourself. And every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your confidence. Execution is what restores that power. When you act on your ideas, even if imperfectly, you train your mind to believe in your own ability to follow through. That's when momentum begins. The smallest step in the right direction can transform your energy, your belief, and your trajectory. The truth is, the gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't knowledge, it's execution. We live in a world overflowing with information. You can learn anything online, read any book, listen to any mentor, but knowledge doesn't change lives. Applied knowledge does. It's not about how much you know. It's about what you do with what you know. There are people with fewer resources, fewer opportunities, and fewer connections who are still achieving incredible things because they act. They don't wait for conditions to be perfect. They make progress with what they have. They understand that perfection is a trap. If you wait for everything to be lined up, you'll never start. The perfect moment doesn't exist. The perfect moment is the one you create by beginning now. Execution is not about having the time. It's about making the time. If something matters enough to you, you will find a way. If it doesn't, you will find an excuse. The people who succeed are not the ones who never face obstacles. They're the ones who act in spite of them. They use every challenge as fuel. They understand that the road to success is paved with resistance. And instead of seeing that as a reason to stop, they see it as proof they're on the right path. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to strengthen their discipline. Every delay becomes a chance to improve their strategy. Every failure becomes a lesson that refines their execution. You can spend your entire life preparing for the right time, but preparation without execution becomes procrastination in disguise. There's always something you think you need first: more money, more confidence, more experience, but action is the very thing that gives you those things. You don't wait to feel ready. You act your way into readiness. You build courage through movement, not through contemplation. When you start taking consistent action, even small ones, you begin to trust yourself more. You build momentum, and momentum is the most powerful force in success. It carries you past fear, past doubt, past hesitation. Every successful person has a story of uncertainty and imperfection. They didn't know all the answers when they started, but they started anyway. They understood that the cost of inaction was greater than the risk of failure. Inaction steals time, opportunity, and growth. It robs you of experience. Execution, even when messy, creates clarity. It teaches you what works and what doesn't. It gives you feedback, and feedback is what accelerates mastery. The more you do, the more you learn. The more you learn, the more you grow. Growth is not born in comfort. It's born in movement. It's easy to get lost in planning, analyzing, and waiting for the right circumstances. But success belongs to those who execute consistently, not perfectly. It belongs to the ones who show up every single day, who push forward when motivation fades, who do the work even when no one notices. Execution demands persistence, and persistence builds character. When you keep showing up, even when it's hard, you train your mind to operate from strength instead of emotion. You stop being controlled by mood and start being guided by mission. There are people right now doing less thinking and more doing, and they're winning. They're not smarter than you. They're just more consistent. They've learned that dreams don't work unless you do. The world rewards execution, not intention. You can't manifest success by wishing for it. You manifest it by working for it. Your habits are the blueprint of your future. Every choice you make, every action you take is a vote for the person you're becoming. If you want a different future, start casting different votes today. Execution requires clarity. You have to know what matters most and focus your energy there. Too many people scatter their efforts in 10 directions and wonder why they're not making progress in any. Decide what you truly want, cut off the distractions, and commit to consistent, focused action. Simplicity creates speed, and speed creates results. When you execute on what matters, you move faster, think clearer, and achieve more. You have to develop a mindset that refuses to quit. Execution is not about one burst of energy. It's about sustained effort over time. It's waking up every morning with a sense of urgency and refusing to settle. It's taking ownership of your future and realizing that every delay is self-inflicted. If you want the next year to look different, your actions have to look different. Stop looking for shortcuts. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop letting fear write your story. The people who change their lives don't wait for the right mood. They create the right movement. They understand that action breeds clarity, clarity breeds confidence, and confidence breeds momentum. When you act consistently, your brain rewires itself to see progress as normal, effort as natural, and success as inevitable. Your future self is watching you right now, hoping you'll have the courage to do what you keep putting off. Every decision you make today builds or breaks that future. You don't need another plan. You need execution. You don't need permission. You need persistence. You don't need to talk about it anymore. You need to live it. The only thing standing between you and the life you want is consistent, committed, focused action. The moment you stop making excuses and start executing, everything begins to change. Excuses are the chains that keep potential prisoners of comfort, and most people don't even realize they're wearing them. Every time you say, I can't, I'll try, or it's not the right time, you're tightening those chains around your own potential. Excuses are seductive. They sound reasonable, logical, and even protective. They whisper that you're not ready, that you need more information, that you'll start when things calm down. But comfort is the quiet killer of greatness, and excuses are its language. The moment you start believing your own excuses, you stop growing, you stop pushing, you stop stretching into the version of yourself that you're meant to become. Comfort convinces you that mediocrity is acceptable. It tells you that as long as things are fine, you don't have to risk failure. But nothing extraordinary has ever been created from comfort. Growth only happens in discomfort, in the spaces where you feel uncertain, afraid, or unqualified. The people who achieve greatness are not the ones who never feel fear or doubt. They're the ones who act in spite of it. They refuse to let excuses become their identity. They know that every excuse is a small surrender, a small step backward from the life they could have lived. Excuses are sneaky because they often sound like truth. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have the right connections. But the truth is that you will always find time for what truly matters. You will always find a way to create resources when your desire is strong enough. The difference between the person who makes excuses and the person who makes it happen is not circumstance, it's choice. One chooses to adapt, the other chooses to avoid. One says, how can I? The other says, I can't. The question you ask yourself determines the quality of your life. When you ask, how can I? Your brain goes to work finding solutions. When you say, can't, your brain shuts down. You stop looking for possibilities and start building limitations. Comfort zones are beautiful but deadly. They feel safe, but they slowly drain your passion, ambition, and creativity. The longer you stay comfortable, the harder it becomes to move. Excuses justify your stay in that zone. They tell you you're being wise, patient, or strategic when in reality, you're avoiding growth. You've got to understand that every excuse is a lie disguised as logic. It's a negotiation between your goals and your fears. And the more you negotiate, the more your fears win. People spend years trapped in the same cycles because they keep explaining why they can instead of figuring out how they can. They protect their comfort at the expense of their calling. They trade long-term fulfillment for short-term ease. And then they wonder why they feel restless, frustrated, or stuck. That feeling isn't a curse, it's a signal. It's your potential knocking, reminding you that you were made for more. Excuses silence that voice. They drown it out with stories that keep you small. Every time you make an excuse, you strengthen the muscle of avoidance. But every time you confront one, you strengthen the muscle of courage. You can't remove excuses by wishing them away. You remove them by acting against them. When you say, I don't have time, you prove it wrong by making time. When you say, I don't know how, you prove it wrong by learning. When you say, I can't do it, you prove it wrong by trying. Action is the antidote to excuses. You can't think your way out of limitation. You have to move your way out. Excuses often come from fear, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of judgment. But fear is just energy waiting to be directed. You can use it to retreat or to rise. The moment you take responsibility for your life, excuses lose their power. You realize that no one else is coming to fix your situation. You realize that your circumstances might not be your fault, but they are your responsibility. Responsibility is the key that unlocks freedom. When you own your life, you take back your power. When you blame, you give it away. The reason so many people stay stuck is because their desire to stay comfortable is stronger than their desire to grow. You can't live a comfortable life and a meaningful life at the same time. One will always require the sacrifice of the other. The question is which one you'll choose. Comfort feels good now, but it costs you later. Growth feels uncomfortable now, but it rewards you later. You either suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Excuses make the pain of regret feel distant, but it always comes. Excuses keep you trapped in stories that justify why you're not where you want to be. They sound like protection, but they're really imprisonment. The mind uses them to avoid temporary discomfort, not realizing it's creating permanent dissatisfaction. The moment you challenge your excuses, you start breaking the chains. You start seeing that the limits you thought were real were self-imposed. You realize you're capable of far more than you've allowed yourself to believe. Success doesn't come to the most talented or the most educated. It comes to the most committed. Commitment means showing up regardless of how you feel, regardless of the conditions, regardless of the odds. Excuses are the opposite of commitment. They give you a way out. But if you're serious about your dreams, you have to eliminate your escape routes. You have to burn the bridge back to comfort. You have to make failure an option only if it comes after full effort, not after half-hearted attempts. Excuses can't survive in an environment of responsibility. The moment you take ownership, they dissolve. When you start saying, I choose not to, instead of, I can't, you tell the truth. Because I can't is rarely real. It's usually, I won't. The difference between those two words defines your destiny. I can't makes you powerless. I won't makes you accountable. Accountability is strength. It gives you control. It reminds you that every moment you're deciding whether to act from fear or from faith. You can't break free from excuses until you face the comfort they protect. You have to ask yourself what you're afraid to lose: approval, security, stability, ease. And then you have to decide whether those things are worth the price of your potential. The truth is, comfort gives you temporary peace, but permanent limits. Discomfort gives you temporary pain, but permanent growth. If you want to reach a level you've never been, you have to do things you've never done. Every excuse is a story, and every story can be rewritten. You can rewrite it with discipline, with courage, with consistent action. You can choose to let your story be about struggle or about strength. The chains of excuses are only as strong as your belief in them. The moment you decide they're lies, they break. What's left is freedom, the freedom to act, to create, to become everything you were meant to be. Discipline outperforms motivation every single time because motivation is fleeting, emotional, and unpredictable, while discipline is grounded, structured, and reliable. Motivation is like a spark. It can ignite passion for a moment, but it fades when conditions change. Discipline is the steady fire that keeps burning long after the spark is gone. Most people wait to feel motivated before they act, not realizing that action itself is what creates momentum, and momentum is what keeps you moving even when motivation disappears. Discipline is not about feeling inspired every day. It's about showing up even when you don't. It's the muscle that builds success one repetition at a time. Motivation is emotional. It's triggered by excitement, passion, or external circumstances. It comes and goes depending on how you feel, what's happening around you, or what kind of mood you're in. Discipline, on the other hand, doesn't care about your feelings. It's about commitment. It's about doing what you said you'd do long after the mood you said it in has left you. The people who accomplish great things aren't those who feel motivated every morning. They're the ones who've trained themselves to act regardless of how they feel. Feelings are temporary, but discipline creates permanent results. Discipline means consistency. It's the art of keeping promises to yourself when no one else is watching. It's easy to perform when you're being applauded or when results are visible, but true power is developed in the unseen hours when it's just you, your work, and your willpower. That's where character is forged. That's where confidence grows. Every time you keep a small promise to yourself, you reinforce your identity as someone who follows through. And that identity becomes your strength when challenges come. You stop needing motivation because you trust your own consistency. Discipline doesn't ask if it's convenient, it asks if it's necessary. It doesn't seek comfort, it seeks completion. When you live with discipline, you no longer depend on emotion to drive your effort. You become self-directed, internally driven, focused on progress, not pleasure. That's where true freedom lies. Not in doing what you feel like, but in mastering yourself enough to do what you must. The irony is that people who chase freedom through comfort end up slaves to their emotions, while those who embrace discipline gain real freedom because they control their choices, their habits, and their destiny. Every successful athlete, artist, entrepreneur, or leader understands this principle. They know that the early mornings, the late nights, the long stretches of work without recognition, those are not punishments, they're privileges. Discipline is the bridge between intention and achievement. You can have dreams as big as the sky, but without the discipline to execute, they remain illusions. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. Your habits are built through discipline. They are the routines you repeat until success becomes your default state. People misunderstand discipline as restriction, but it's actually the highest form of self-respect. When you're disciplined, you're telling yourself that your goals matter more than your impulses. You're saying no to what's easy so you can say yes to what's meaningful. That is not punishment. That's empowerment. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you strengthen your mind. You train it to obey your decisions, not your emotions. You turn willpower into habit, and once something becomes a habit, it no longer requires effort. It becomes part of who you are. Motivation can get you started, but discipline keeps you going when things get hard, because they will get hard. There will be days when you don't feel like showing up, when the results seem invisible, when the effort feels endless. That's when most people quit. But those who've built discipline push through. They understand that consistency compounds. The small daily actions you take may seem insignificant now, but over time they create exponential growth. One day of discipline might not change your life, but 1,000 days will. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's repetitive, often boring, and rarely praised. But it's in that repetition that excellence is born. The greats aren't great because they're special. They're great because they've mastered the basics longer than everyone else. They've shown up on days when motivation was nowhere to be found. They've practiced when no one was watching, refined when no one was clapping, persisted when no one believed. That's the quiet power of discipline. It doesn't demand attention, it demands results. Motivation can be stolen by failure, but discipline transforms failure into feedback. When you rely on motivation, failure feels like the end. When you rely on discipline, failure becomes data information you use to improve, adjust, and grow. Discipline keeps you steady in storms because it's not reactive, it's proactive. It's built on commitment, not emotion. It reminds you that the process is more important than perfection. To build discipline, you must build structure. You must create systems that make it easier to do the right thing and harder to do the wrong thing. Discipline thrives in clarity. When you know what you want, why you want it, and what it takes to get it, your actions become automatic. You stop negotiating with yourself every day. You stop wasting energy on deciding whether or not to act. Decision fatigue disappears because your standards are set. That's why disciplined people seem unstoppable. They don't spend time debating their next move, they've already decided. Discipline also demands patience. It teaches you to respect the process, to value long-term reward over instant gratification. The undisciplined mind craves quick results, but the disciplined mind understands that real transformation takes time. Discipline is the ability to stay the course when results aren't visible yet. It's believing in the seeds you've planted even before you see the harvest. That's why disciplined people create lasting success. They're not chasing the rush of achievement, they're building foundations that endure. The beauty of discipline is that it multiplies across every area of life. When you become disciplined in your body, your mind follows. When you become disciplined with your time, your relationships improve. When you become disciplined in your finances, your confidence grows. Discipline is contagious. It spreads into everything you do. It becomes the language of excellence, the rhythm of achievement. People who depend on motivation always need something external, a speech, a song, a crisis, or a deadline to move them. People who depend on discipline don't wait, they act. They move because movement is who they are. They've conditioned themselves to take consistent action whether or not they feel like it. That conditioning is built day by day, choice by choice, until it becomes part of your identity. You become the kind of person who finishes what they start, who follows through, who can be trusted, especially by yourself. Discipline is not built overnight. It's built in the small moments of resistance. It's built when you get out of bed at 5 a.m. instead of hitting snooze. It's built when you go to the gym on the days you're tired. It's built when you say no to distractions and yes to priorities. Each time you make that choice, you carve a new identity. A stronger one, a focused one, a powerful one. That's how you change your life. Not through grand gestures, but through consistent discipline over time. The truth is, you won't always feel like it. You won't always be inspired. But if you can train yourself to act without needing to feel ready, you become unstoppable. Because while everyone else is waiting for motivation to return, you'll already be making progress. While others talk about what they plan to do, you'll be building results brick by brick. That's the power of discipline. It's the invisible engine of greatness that keeps going long after emotion fades, creating outcomes that motivation alone could never deliver. Commitment means doing it, especially when it's not convenient, because true commitment isn't tested when things are easy. It's tested when everything in you wants to quit. It's easy to be excited at the beginning, when energy is high, when the vision is fresh, and when everyone is cheering you on. But commitment shows its strength when the excitement fades, when the applause stops, and when you have to rely on nothing but your inner drive. Most people love the idea of commitment until it costs them their comfort. The moment it requires sacrifice, the moment it becomes inconvenient, they start to negotiate with themselves. But the ones who succeed in life understand that real commitment doesn't have a back door. It's not something you do when it feels good. It's something you do because it's who you are. Convenience is the enemy of greatness. It makes you soft. It tempts you to trade long-term results for short-term relief. But every breakthrough is born out of inconvenience. Every time you push through discomfort, you grow stronger. The path to your goals will never be smooth. There will be interruptions, disappointments, and delays. There will be moments when quitting seems logical and staying consistent seems impossible. But commitment doesn't ask if the road is clear. It simply keeps walking. It's a decision to stay the course regardless of the conditions, to keep moving forward even when the reasons to stop seem louder than the reasons to continue. Commitment is not a one-time choice, it's a daily renewal of your decision. It's waking up each morning and choosing again to stay true to your purpose. It's not about feelings, it's about standards. You can't let your emotions dictate your execution. Feelings change with the weather, standards remain steady. Commitment means saying, I'll do it anyway, even when you're tired, even when no one notices, even when progress feels invisible. Because commitment isn't about instant gratification, it's about ultimate fulfillment. It's the willingness to keep planting seeds, even when the soil looks barren, trusting that the harvest will come if you don't give up. Most people give up not because they can't, but because it's inconvenient to continue. They start strong but fade when the process becomes uncomfortable. They say they want success, but they also want ease, and those two don't coexist. You cannot have growth without struggle, victory without persistence, or transformation without endurance. Commitment demands that you stop negotiating your goals with your emotions. You can't say you're committed and still give yourself permission to quit when it gets hard. Commitment is a promise you make to your purpose and a promise you refuse to break. Convenience is seductive because it offers temporary comfort, but that comfort comes with a price. It costs you your progress, your momentum, your confidence. Every time you choose convenience over commitment, you send yourself a message that your dreams don't matter enough. And over time, that message becomes your reality. You stop believing in yourself, not because you're incapable, but because you've trained yourself to surrender whenever it's inconvenient. On the other hand, every time you keep going despite resistance, you build a reputation with yourself. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through no matter what. That's how self-respect is built, not through comfort, but through consistency. Commitment transforms you. It develops a version of yourself that you didn't know existed. When you keep showing up through difficulty, you discover strength you never thought you had. You realize that the obstacles were not there to stop you. They were there to strengthen you. Every inconvenience becomes a chance to expand your capacity. The more you face discomfort, the more resilient you become. The more you keep promises to yourself, the more powerful you feel. That's why committed people radiate confidence, not because they never face challenges, but because they know they can handle them. When you live committed, you stop making decisions based on convenience. You stop waiting for ideal conditions, perfect timing, or approval from others. You move because your purpose demands it. You understand that the conditions will never be perfect, and that's why you act anyway. You learn to thrive in inconvenience because you know that's where transformation happens. The gym will be crowded, the schedule will be tight, the money might be limited, but if you're truly committed, you find a way. You don't adjust your goals to your circumstances, you adjust your behavior to your goals. Commitment also means loyalty to the process, not just the outcome. It's easy to stay focused when results are visible, but true commitment means staying faithful when progress is slow, when results are delayed, and when no one is watching. It means doing the work not for recognition, but for integrity. It means trusting that every repetition, every late night, every sacrifice is compounding into something extraordinary. The process itself is shaping you into someone capable of handling the success you're chasing. Convenience will always offer you an exit, an excuse, a justification to slow down or stop. It will whisper, "You've done enough for today. You deserve a break," or "You can catch up tomorrow." But commitment replies, "I finish what I start." It's not about being perfect. It's about being relentless. It's about showing up even when it's inconvenient because you understand that your goals don't care about your excuses. They respond only to execution. Every great story of achievement is a story of inconvenience. The inventors who failed hundreds of times before success, the athletes who trained through pain, the leaders who built when everyone else doubted, they all faced the same moments of fatigue, doubt, and distraction. The difference was that they stayed committed. They did it anyway. They kept pushing, kept learning, kept showing up. And in doing so, they built momentum that eventually carried them past their obstacles. Commitment also demands clarity. You can't stay committed to something vague. You have to know exactly what you want and why you want it. The stronger your why, the easier it is to endure inconvenience. When your purpose is powerful, your pain becomes tolerable. When your vision is clear, your distractions lose their power. Clarity fuels discipline, and discipline sustains commitment. It all works together to keep you aligned when convenience tries to pull you off track. The world is full of people who start but never finish, who plan but never execute, who talk but never act. The difference between those who make it and those who don't is not talent, luck, or timing. It's commitment. The ones who win are the ones who refuse to quit, who embrace inconvenience as part of the process, who understand that nothing worth having comes easy. They've built an unshakable mindset that doesn't crumble under pressure. They've learned that commitment is not a feeling, it's a decision renewed daily through action. When you commit, you eliminate the option to back out. You stop asking, will I, and start declaring, I will. You stop looking for comfort and start looking for completion. You become the kind of person who finishes no matter what. That identity becomes your strength when everything else fades, because convenience fades, motivation fades, but commitment, once forged, becomes unbreakable. It becomes your foundation, your compass, your engine. And once you live from that level of commitment, nothing can stop you. 2026 is not a rehearsal. It's your breakthrough year, the moment when everything you've been preparing for comes to a point of decision, the time when you stop practicing and start performing, when you stop waiting and start building. Too many people treat their lives as if they'll get another chance to begin later, as if there's always more time, as if opportunity will politely knock again and again until they finally answer. But life doesn't wait for anyone. Every day that passes is a day you'll never get back. And the choices you make now are shaping the version of yourself you'll meet a year from today. 2026 is not about trying, it's about becoming. It's about crossing the line between talking about your goals and living them, between wishing for better and demanding better from yourself. You've rehearsed long enough. You've told yourself what you want, written it down, visualized it, even talked about it. But rehearsal time is over. This is the season for execution, for courage, for focus. This is the year where your habits will either hold you back or propel you forward, where your decisions will either define you or diminish you. You can't keep waiting for the right circumstances, because the right circumstances are built by those who act. 2026 is not another lap around the same mountain. It's the climb that takes you to the peak you've been dreaming of. You have to treat this year like it's your last chance to prove to yourself what you're capable of. Not because it's dramatic, but because urgency gives birth to greatness. When you remove the illusion of someday, you start acting like your life depends on it, because it does. This is the year you stop carrying last year's excuses into your new season. This is the year you stop repeating the same patterns and expecting different results. If you want change, you have to change. You have to show up differently, think differently, and act with a level of determination that makes hesitation impossible. Every time you've said, next time, you've delayed your growth. Every time you've hesitated, you've taught your mind that comfort matters more than progress. But 2026 is the time to rewire that. It's the time to take massive, consistent action. It's the time to build momentum so strong that fear can't stop you. Doubt can't distract you, and fatigue can't slow you down. You have to decide that this year, you're done being almost ready, done preparing for someday, done living rehearsals for a life that's waiting for your full commitment. Breakthrough doesn't come to those who wait, it comes to those who move. You have to take what you've learned, the mistakes, the lessons, the pain, and turn them into fuel. Nothing you've been through is wasted if you use it. Every setback you've survived, every disappointment you've endured, every closed door that made you question yourself, it was all training. It was all rehearsal for this moment. The challenge wasn't there to break you, it was there to build you. You've been prepared for this season in ways you couldn't see before. 2026 is your moment to apply everything you've learned and prove to yourself that you were never waiting on opportunity. Opportunity was waiting on you. This is the year you stop chasing motivation and start mastering consistency, because success isn't built on how you feel, it's built on what you do when you don't feel like it. Every small act of discipline compounds into power. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you move closer to your breakthrough. The results you crave aren't found in bursts of excitement, they're found in quiet repetition. The world won't change for you until you show that you're serious enough to keep going when it's hard. 2026 will test you. It will ask you how bad you really want it. It will demand sacrifice, resilience, and persistence. There will be moments when you question why you started. There will be days when the dream feels far away. But remember, pressure is proof of potential. Diamonds are not formed in comfort, they're formed under heat and weight. Every moment you push forward despite resistance, you're being refined into the person capable of holding the success you've been praying for. That's the purpose of this year. To break what's weak, strengthen what's strong, and reveal what's real. Stop treating your potential like a someday project. The world doesn't need more rehearsals. It needs results. It needs leaders, creators, builders, people who are willing to do what they said they would do. 2026 is the year to turn intention into execution. It's the year you take massive ownership of your time, your energy, and your destiny. Every day is a chance to prove to yourself that you're serious about your goals. Every day is an opportunity to outwork your old self. The habits that carried you to this point won't carry you to the next one. This year demands more focus, more resiliency, more strategy. You have to be willing to let go of the patterns that kept you small, the distractions, the procrastination, the excuses, the self-doubt. Growth requires subtraction before expansion. You can't step into your breakthrough while holding on to the comfort of your past. The version of you that achieves the next level has sharper boundaries, stronger habits, and a mindset that refuses to compromise. When you live like this is your breakthrough year, you stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for signs. You stop waiting for everything to make sense. You start acting on faith, on conviction, on purpose. You start building even when you don't see results yet. You start showing up with intensity because you know that consistency always pays off. It's not about instant success. It's about cumulative progress. Every day of effort adds up. Every day of showing up creates compound results. You owe it to yourself to give 2026 everything you've got. No more half-hearted attempts. No more halfway goals. No more, maybe later. You've played small for too long, doubted yourself for too long, waited for validation for too long. Now it's time to move. You've got gifts to use, potential to fulfill, and opportunities to create. This is not a warm-up. This is the main event. Every decision, every sacrifice, every ounce of effort matters. You have to treat each moment like it's the one that defines your legacy. This is the year where your discipline becomes your superpower, where your consistency becomes your credibility, where your faith becomes your fuel. This is the year where you stop preparing and start performing. You've done enough research. You've gathered enough advice. You've gathered enough advice. You've waited long enough. Now it's time to execute, because while everyone else is still rehearsing, still planning, still talking, you'll be out there doing. And the ones who do are the ones who win. When the year ends, it won't matter what you intended to do. It will only matter what you did. The question won't be how ready you were, but how relentless you became. 2026 is not a rehearsal. It's your moment to step into your purpose with full conviction, to rise above the noise, to prove that your life isn't a practice run. You get one chance to make this year count, one chance to stop repeating and start rewriting, one chance to show yourself that you were always capable of more than you believed.